see the Messiah and Him working in your life, you'll realize we live in what's called the fourth age, the present kingdom age. And this is a spiritual kingdom on earth now. And if you have received the Messiah in your heart, you are no longer carnally minded.
Right.
So these carnal things in the world, these physical things, should not be things that we are getting wrapped up in and concerned about.
That's right.
But we are seeing Him operating in spirit and in truth. Because you know that everything out there is a lie. Everything.
Yes.
Now, I'm sharing something with Tommy this morning. And the thing is one of these realizations you're going to have to come to. We're not meant to be friends.
Right.
We are not friends in here. This is not about maintaining or achieving friendships. Because Yahshua is our friend.
That's right.
And so what you identify with is that which is within you, and that's Yahshua, and that causes you to be a brethren in Him. So we recognize each other as brethren. We are brothers and sisters in Yahshua.
Yes.
We are not friends after the flesh.
That's right.
This Facebook thing, now I don't do Facebook. First of all, I didn't want to ever put any of my stuff out there. Didn't want to hear about everybody else's day-to-day, everyday stuff. Didn't think it really mattered to anything, so I never got into it. But the thing is that what's Facebook about. Facebook about how many people have you friended in the last week or day or hour or whatever. How many friends do you have? It doesn't matter. It's not important. And it is not the way that Yahweh is set up to preach His gospel is on Facebook.
That's right.
Okay? This gospel, now this is where He's taking me. This gospel is meant to be right here, preached to you from this floor in this room. If you are here right now, this is where you're meant to get and receive it. I'm not talking about the pygmies in Africa. What about them? It's for you to be here now.
That's right.
Now, Yahweh put this on my heart and mind because I see how things look during the week when we come in here. And this room, and I'm going to shake, I'm going to start shaking again. Even my left leg is like shaking so bad I can't stand on it. Because this room is sparse during the week. There are few in here. So last night, see, this is something, I'm going to tell you one thing about me. I'm only telling you this because this is something that you'll say, well, where did she get this? I like to knit. I like to knit. My auntie says, I have a thing on the refrigerator that says that I knit so I won't kill him. Some man asked me the other day, how have you managed to stay together for 42 years? People think that's awesome to be married that long. I don't do that. I mean, it's like Yahshua put us together. I came in here because I followed Him in. He had a rule in His book, if she didn't accept the gospel,
He wasn't going to marry her. So He brought in all His girlfriends. So that's why I'm still married to Him, because Yahshua put us together. So He said, how do you stay together? And I said, I knit a lot. Okay, but what I do when I'm knitting, okay, now that's not true. I love my husband. And it's just cute because I like to knit. But I like to knit, and I find that I can't sit down with a book and read when I'm knitting. So I stream a lot of classes. I just pick out a class. Sometimes I pick out a speaker in this class, or a speaker over in Oceanside, or a speaker down in Meridian, or whatever, and I just sit and I like to knit, and I can knit blankets like crazy. I knit huge blankets in like 3 weeks, just streaming class and doing that. And you ask, anyway, I was watching a class last night, and I'm going to go into this because He put it on my heart and mind, because we're all experiencing this throughout all these classes. The slack of the brethren to come to class where they are. I thought it was just us, but it's not just us. It's everywhere. All the classes are experiencing lack of attendance. People not putting this first. Now, what this dean said last night about how he put it out there, and he said this before your seminar in Albuquerque. He said, what is so important that you have to do? And he said on Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Saturday, classes are held all week long all over the the United States. What do you have that's so important to do on that night that you cannot come here and attend to Yahshua the Messiah? You are putting everything, and I'm going to say it like this, and I was like, why does Yahweh put this on me to be the one who speaks about this? But he does. Do you know? He puts this on me to speak about it. And the point, and so I'm just going to do it. And do I like it? No. And do I feel like I'm being accusatory? Yes. But the thing is that this is Yahshua who put this on my heart, and this is why it's here. There's nothing more important for you to do on Wednesday or Friday or Sunday. Nothing. And he named things like family, jobs, a television show. He named everything. There is nothing more important for us to do than be here on Wednesday and Friday and Sunday. And that is to support the brethren. That ain't to come in here and make friends. That's my thing, okay? So he brought that out. So now I'm going to have you go get scripture. First of all, I'm going to have you get the scripture that he went to, and I believe that was Luke, the 14th chapter, because there's things about this, you know. We're going to start going into the Elohim books on Friday nights. This all comes together. Now, in order to go in and start hearing, and I mean it, there is nothing more important than to be here. Right now, we're so close to the end of this age. When you read what Yahshua has to say about this, you're going to be here Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. You are only giving up 6 hours. 6 hours out of the whole week to come here and hear this gospel preached in this room. And there are babes in here that need to hear this gospel preached from every one of us that's been here for however long we've been. We need to be here, okay? Now, is it Luke the 14th chapter that I want? You know what? I should look that. I should just make sure because I don't want to not get off of that. Okay, yep, 14:7. So we're going to go over the element books. Okay, so we're going to go do that. But now the thing is that here's the problem. He said, Danielle brought this up the other night, that Dr. Kinley says in there that we need to be alone and by ourselves and go to a quiet place to read that. Well, the point is that the Elohim book, going through it on Friday nights, is not going to mean anything to you except for if first you come here and get a foundation of Yahshua the Messiah, of what he has to teach you. Because those Elohim books, I tell you what, they went out to the whole world when they came out. They're still given out to new people in the world periodically. We get no response from these people. They do not understand that book. It's like a book that is sealed to those out in the world. Now, you've come in here and Yahshua has undone the seal. He's broke the seal, and the seal is open, but you're not going to get it if you don't come here and get a foundational understanding to be able to go back and get into those books. Okay, fine. That's number one. Now, number two is that you're going to have to do the homework. If the assignment is given out to you to read this, then you're going to be alone, quiet, and by yourself to read that Elohim book before you come in here, because you're not just going to come in here and go, well, I didn't take time this week to read the lesson we're going to go over on Friday night. It means nothing. You're not going to get as much out of it. So these are things that have to be established before we're going to be able to really get something out of these Elohim books. Okay? That's all it is. That's all there is to it. It's not that hard. That's another thing. It is not that hard to know anything about Yahshua. It's not that hard to learn. It's not that hard to commit to Yahshua, because I'll tell you, once you have committed to him, everything falls into place. Everything is, I'll tell you what he'll do to you. He'll put condemnation on you. He'll put condemnation on your mind, on your heart about what you're not doing. You're going to feel guilty. He's going to make you feel guilty. Because if you don't feel that way, he's not going to be able to get your butt where you need to be. And you need to be here with the brethren. I didn't say with all the friends. I said with the brethren. You know, here's what's happened to me over the years. Andy and I have gone through some things in our lives, and I mean, we'll tell you the first. Somebody will say, you have one phone. We share a phone, by the way. You have one phone. How do you do that? Mariah asked us that. How do you do that? I go, I'm with him all the time. She said, all the time? Do you ever get a break? And I'm like, Well, maybe if I go to the bathroom, take a shower, whatever. But for the past 8 years, we've been together 24/7, literally together 24/7. We have no friends. We have no friends. We have each other. That's all we have. But it's Yahshua in us that's held us together. Okay, so go ahead and read that because I want to get into that, and then, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to get Yahshua's message out, and and that's the way it is. All right, go ahead.
Luke 14:7. And he put forth a parable
Now, Yahshua put forth this parable. Go ahead.
to those which were hidden, when he marked how they chose out the chief rooms, saying unto
Is
them.
that Luke 14:7?
Yeah, that's not right.
Oh, okay. I want to use the word
Oh,
bidden.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's okay.
Okay, let me read that again. Sue.
Okay, don't
I'm
get too
sorry.
excited, Danielle. Relax.
Okay. And he put forth a parable
Uh-huh.
to those which were bidden.
There you go. He put forth a parable to those that were bidden. By the way, you're bidden. You've been bidden if you've come here, not bitten.
Not hidden.
Invited. You have been invited. This is a cordial invite to come and sup with your king before we take off the flesh and we have sup with him, not 3 times a week, all the time. And that word time is dumb when you're in eternity. Go ahead.
When he marked how they chose out the chief rooms, saying unto them, When thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him. And he that bade thee and him come and say to thee, Give this man place, and thou begin with the shame to take the lowest room. Is this where
I
you
don't
want?
know if
That's not it, is it? I can.
what.
Let me get my light in number 1, number 2.
Hang on, you guys.
Okay.
I do this with try to remember scriptures. I'm not very good at it. I want where they're invited to the supper. That's it. I'm sorry. It's 14:12. We were heading there. Okay, we're getting there. Thank you, Terry. Go ahead.
Okay. Luke 14:12.
Now,
Then said-
Yahshua, he spake in parables. He told them why he did that, why he spoke in parables. It was so that those that could not hear didn't hear, and those that could not see didn't see. But then he went and took his disciples aside and he explained those parables to them. Go ahead, read.
Then said he also to him that bade him, When thou makest a dinner or a supper,
Okay.
Call
now,
not-
Yahshua has made this dinner or this supper. This is what we're doing. We're communing. This is communion. This is the true communion. The communion between Yahshua and his brethren. Read.
when thou makest a dinner or a supper, call not thy friends, nor thy brethren,
It said, call not thy friends, nor thy brethren. Go ahead.
neither thy kinsmen, nor thy rich neighbors,
Okay.
lest they also bid thee again, and a recompense be made thee. But when thou makest a feast, call the poor.
He said to call the poor. Would you say that you're the poor? Does everybody come in here on top of the world? Is everything wonderful in your life? Okay, I think Yahweh takes you down some roads before he brings you in here and shows you himself. He's got to take you down those, okay? You're going to continue to go down those too. But I'll tell you what, he'll lift you out of those much faster when you give him the priority. Go ahead. And I mean the priority. Go ahead.
Lest they also bid thee again. Let me go back up. Neither thy kinsmen nor thy rich neighbors, lest they also bid thee again, and a recompense be made thee. But when thou makest a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and thou shalt be blessed. For they cannot recompense thee, For thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of Yahweh.
Okay, well, that's what we've come down here. We're eating the bread in the kingdom of Yahweh. If you have received him into your heart and mind, you have been entered into his kingdom now. We're not waiting to go over and enter into his kingdom when we're dead. Correct. When we've taken off this physical. We've entered into the kingdom now. We've sitting down to share bread. The bread, who's the bread? Yahshua said, I am the bread of life. Okay, go ahead. Life, not physical life. Mm-hmm. Not your physical life. Go ahead.
16. Mm-hmm. Then said he unto them, A certain man made a great supper. And
okay, this is the parable. Now, a certain man made a great supper. Yahshua has made a great supper. Yahweh has given it unto his son that he have a supper. I'm going to take something natural here. I'm going to say, look at this. Look at this man who's now made a supper. He's got this sumptuous feast. Go ahead and read.
Then said he unto him, A certain man made a great supper and bade many.
And he bade many to come. He invited many people. There were something like 6,000 people at a convention in Dallas, Texas, many years ago. I can't give you the date. What was it? In 1987, 6,000 people were bidden to the supper in Dallas, Texas. We were called 1 in a million because there were 6 billion people on the earth at the time. You were 1 in a million invited to that supper. Go ahead, read.
17, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready.
Come, for all things are now ready. Yahshua the Messiah has died, buried, resurrected, poured out his Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost, entered into the hearts and minds of men, both Jew and Gentile, some 7 years later. Go ahead.
And they all with one consent began to make excuse. Mm-hmm. The first said unto him.
And they all began to make excuse. Everybody's got an excuse. I'll tell you what's your biggest excuse. This. Here, I'll do Terry. This. That's your biggest excuse. Gets in the way of everything. Everything that Yahshua has for you. This gets in the way. Go ahead.
The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it.
This was his thing. Well, one person said, well, I bought a piece of ground and I must needs go and see it. Well, let's see, I have some real estate over here, and tonight I have to go over and see how that's being managed. Because that's what's going on Wednesday night. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to use...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I pray thee have me excused.
Yeah, get me excused from it for that night. But you know what? Next week you're going to have the same excuse. Go ahead. Because the more you make an excuse, the more it builds. And every time you turn around, there's another thing that gets in the way, and it gets easier and easier to say, I got a good excuse tonight. Go ahead.
And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused.
I got to check out my livestock. I got to take care of my livestock tonight. Why? You only have 2 hours. Your livestock will get through it. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come.
I got a wife. Now this wife, she won't like the idea that I'm leaving her to go to this tonight. So I'm going to hang with my wife. I'm going to do what my wife does. Andy, please don't ever be like that. If I hold you back, just go. You know, whatever. I'm just saying to you, don't let even your wife or your husband hold you back. You need to stand your ground. If anything, that will be what will cause you to be here. Is that one stood his ground and you just said, well, I'm going anyway. I'm going along. As a matter of fact, that happened to me, maybe about 40 years ago. I said, well, I don't really feel like going tonight. You know, I have this or that or blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, I'm going. And I thought, well, I'm not staying home alone. I'm going too. So here's the thing. Your excuse can be flipped out on you too. Completely flipped out. Go ahead.
So that servant came and showed his master these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, go out quickly into the streets.
Yeah, forget those people that were bidden.
Yep.
You know, see that? This is how sure it is. You could lose your soul over the dumb excuse of not coming down here, and that's the first obedient thing that Yahshua, well, it's the first thing. It's one of the only things that Dr. Kinley ever said, come to class. Now, if you've been bidden to the supper, and you know you have been, then you need to come to class and be obedient. Because obedience is better than what?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice. And what's the sacrifice going to be? Your soul.
That's right.
You are a soul.
Tell it.
You are most importantly a soul first before you're this physical image of what people have of you or you have of yourself.
That's right.
You are a soul and you're precious to him and you've been invited to this supper. So if you don't come, forget it. The king, he can very easily just say, well, forget it. I'm not having them come in. Because this is what he'll do. Read.
Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city and bring in hither the poor and the maimed and the halt.
Go get the ones that look like they're the most undeserving. Go get bring in the maimed and the ones with the blindness, and just bring them in. Go ahead, read.
And the halt and the blind. And the servant said, Master, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room.
And still there was room, because there's plenty of room in the kingdom of Yahshua. Plenty. But you're not going to be in it unless you're obedient. That's all there is to it. You need to be obedient to this. And I hope everybody everyone out in Ustream land or YouTube is looking at this and saying, wow, I never realized how important it is that I am part of that body that attends these classes that have been laid out for me. And I live in the same darn city where there's a class held on Wednesday, Friday, or Sunday, or Tuesday and Saturday. There are people who drive. Now, Andy and I drive about 40 minutes to come here. There are people who live other places where they drive up to 2 hours to attend one of these classes, to be obedient unto Yahshua. That's not hard to do. If that's all he asks of you, he will give you his kingdom.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And the master said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled.
Compel them to come in. It's like, how do you compel? It's like getting on your hands and knees and begging people to come in and hear this great gospel preached. Go ahead.
And compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper.
Okay, now look. It's a great kingdom. There's plenty of room for all. Okay, he has bidden us all to come in here and sit before him and hear his gospel preached. That's your salvation, is his gospel preached. Now, there were angels that were cast out of heaven in this creative age. It says angelic creation. And these angels, a third of an innumerable, how many is that? That's innumerable. Innumerable angels cast out, and they do not have that estate to return to. It says that, where does it say that? Anybody know? You can find it in the Bible.
Yeah.
Look up estate, because I don't remember
It's
all
in
my
Jude.
scriptures, but I know them.
Jude. Yeah.
What is it?
It's in Jude.
Jude? Okay, it's in Jude. Okay, so, it's
Jude
probably
6,
on
I
one of
believe.
these charts too. But
Do you
anyway,
want it to?
so here's the thing. The innumerable were cast out. That means there's an innumerable seats to be filled, because these souls that are being saved down here are the ones that are going to take residence where they left off, so that Yahweh has not lost anything. So you have plenty of room for you. Come to class and learn of him. Go over and get for me Matthew the 23rd chapter.
Do you want Jude 6 too, or not?
No.
Okay.
I want
Matthew
Matthew 23rd chapter. I want the wedding. Okay.
Go ahead, right.
Now here's another example of Yahshua inviting you. Remember, what is more important than your soul? This physical body is going to drop off. Some days I feel like I'm not going to wake up the next morning, which is fine with me.
Right.
But here's the thing. I wake up some mornings and go, oh, I'm still here. I'm still here. I do. I wake up and I go, I'm still here. Because I am awaiting for that great and glorious day of Yahweh, when all shall be revealed to the whole universe, put it that way. Okay, at that instantaneous revelation of Yahshua the Messiah from heaven. Go ahead, Danielle.
Matthew 22:1. And Yahshua answered and spake unto them again by parables and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son.
Okay, that certain king now is Yahshua the Messiah. He's been made to sit at the right hand of Yahweh. He is the king. This is the king, King Yahshua. People talk about Yahshua, sovereign and king. He is. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And sent forth his servants to call them that
Now
were,
he sent forth servants to call. Read.
that were bidden to the wedding.
To who were bidden to the wedding. So really what this is a wedding supper that we've been invited to, the supper of the Lamb. Go over and get for me in Revelations, I believe it's 3, where it talks about knocking on the door. Get that for me. Go ahead. You get that, Danielle, and keep reading. And you know what? Basically, I'm just, for you that don't YouTube too much, which is, that's not going to save your soul, by the way. You know, I'm just sitting there watching YouTube. But it is another tool that Yahshua is using. And Dr. Kinley wanted this to go out in the movies, it said. And if anything, that's what YouTube is. It's the movies. And that's for people who cannot attend these classes.
Yeah.
But you can. It's right here. It's really important, people. It's really important that you be here. Our hearts are disheartened when we sit here and there's only 7 of us sitting in this room, or 8 of us, or sometimes 3 or 4 of us. The hearts are disheartened. You know, Andy and I go away in the summertime. Yahweh's bringing that down to a close. One of those reasons is because we would come back and say, do you know how sparse the class was during the time that you guys are out of town? And in a way, we knew, because we YouTube. Class is on. By the way, that's what I want to say about YouTube. Because I watched a benediction on YouTube the other night, and she got up and she said, okay, may we stand for the doxology? And she said, you too out there. Now, Andy and I, we sit down on a YouTube class night. Your class is streaming. That's class for us. The 2 of us sit down in the trailer. We get our books out, we get out our notepads, and we sit there and we watch class. And at the end of every class, we stand when Tim calls for doxology. We're standing in the trailer by ourselves, closed up, watching class. So that's for people who are not here. But that Yahweh put that on our hearts, that we could tell through the YouTube that you were not having the attendance. And we were like, we gotta go home. Because I know we're just 2 more little old bodies, but we're also 2 more full souls. And so we need to go home so we can be there and help lift up the arms of the brethren. Because that's what it feels like when nobody's here. Nobody lifting up the arms of the brethren. It's good to come together. It's good for us to be together and hear the gospel preached, not the gossip. Not come together and talk about ourselves and what we've been doing, unless it pertains to Yahshua. You show me Yahshua in your life, well, you're talking to me about something that went on in your life, that's important, because Yahshua's working through each and every one of us. Go ahead and finish that.
I'm going to go back up to 2.
Okay.
The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son.
And you know, Terry has a lecture that he gives about what the kingdom is and where the kingdom is, and this is the kingdom. So if the kingdom is like unto, go ahead.
Like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son.
Right.
And sent forth his servants.
And the marriage is for his son, and that's Yahshua. His marriage, because the bridegroom is Yahshua. And we have been told we're the bride. Okay, go ahead.
And sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again, he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have prepared my dinner.
He's prepared this. When Dr. Kinley had this divine vision and revelation, he set forth the prepared vision and revelation of Yahshua. And it's been prepared. It's all here for you to come. bidden to the wedding supper. It's here, and it's full. This is a huge banquet. It's a buffet of everything that Yahshua has to show. Because sometimes we get up here and think, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. Turn around and take a look. And there is so much for you to talk about Yahshua from this that you can look at. And just, oh, you don't remember scriptures? Well, they're written on most of the charts, have all the scriptures you need to go through. There's enough here to last your lifetime and eternity, as it would be. Go ahead.
Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed. And all things are ready.
All things are ready.
Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it.
They made light of it. I got to stay home tonight. I got to go to this. I got to do this. I'm too tired. I just make light of it. You know, it's not important. Well, it'll be there the next time I go. Might not be. Might close that door that night, and you're not coming in. Give me that revelation. Behold, I stand at the door.
Revelation 3:20.
Yep.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock.
Now, who said that? That's Yahshua. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. It's not this door out here. By the way, that's another thing that I see. We always talk about we're waiting for that last soul to come in the door. It's not that door.
Right.
It could be in here. There's a door that's still being knocked on. Wake up! Hello! This is the door.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door.
Now, if he hears the voice, and can't we all say that we've heard the voice? Why do you even bother to come down here if you haven't heard the voice? You've heard the voice. Be here.
That's right.
And be here on time. That's another vital importance. You must be here. You know why? Because that moderation, you know, Tim does a great job with that moderation. Plenty of time for you to sit down. Now he's gotten really good. He's a little bit faster, Tim, than he used to be. But it gives you time to slow down and unwind, hearing him do that moderation and focus. So that by the time, now watch this. I've been watching this for 40 years. That's no big deal, by the way. 40 years is less than a day. But anyway.
Hour.
I'm sorry. I said that last time, didn't I?
No,
Okay,
it's
less than an hour.
Yeah, it's
okay,
okay too.
less than an hour. But the thing is that then when they get to the aims, Terry Welsh always closes his eyes. And he tunes into it. It's like he's got to take the moment. Now, he doesn't just close his eyes like this. But he starts to do his breathing. And what he's doing is slowing his heart rate. This is what Yahshua is doing for him. And it doesn't hurt all of us to take advantage of some of these examples that we've been shown in here to be able to come in here and focus. So you got to be here on time. You got to be here on time. Otherwise, you're going to be all wrapped up in whatever you came to class tonight and decided you would come and are putting out the door. By the way, that's another thing. Leave the stuff outside. Leave it outside. If you leave the baggage outside and you come in here and then you begin to calm yourselves and to focus in on what's about to be preached, you'll get so much more out of it. You know, who cares what she's got on tonight and what he's not wearing and how he's this or that or whatever, right? Don't matter, does it? Go ahead.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him.
And we'll sup with him. I will come in and we will have supper together. In other words, he will come into your heart and mind, and now he will sup with you and give you something that will sustain your physical body. No, will sustain your soul for the things that it must go through, and it's going to have to go through some stuff. If you're seeing things happening now, it's going to get worse. And you know, this is the other thing. The devil, or the serpent, or I should say a snake, doesn't really like dead things to eat. It eats live. Now, if your soul's alive, that's what the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons wants, is something alive. He wants your soul, so you are setting yourself up for fodder if you're not coming in here and sitting down and having the sup. You're setting yourself up to be eaten. And you will be eaten, because he picks at a raised son, at a son of Yahshua the Messiah, more than he does anybody else in the world. They seem to be able to get right through it and do whatever, and next day they do the same thing. But we are afflicted. That's good. Because the soul that's not afflicted isn't going to be a strong soul. It's just like building a muscle, right? So you're going to be afflicted, and it's going to get worse for you. And he's going to pick things that he knows exactly which one. Yours isn't the same as mine. That's why there's so many diseases. Your disease ain't the same as her disease. Well, your affliction is going to be different. But go ahead. So he said, I knock at the door. And if any man answers the door and opens the door, by the way, open up your heart and your mind to Yahshua the Messiah, then he will come in and he will sup with you. Go ahead, finish it.
I will come in to him and will sup with him.
And he will come into you. Not you're going to sit across the table from him. He's going to actually be in you. Go ahead. And by the way, that's the importance. The speaker is Yahshua. The listener is Yahshua. In you. Read. It's the dean last night you talked about, and it wasn't last night. It was a while ago, but it's when I was watching it. He said that, it's good to hear the speaker, to hear, that's right. If that's all you're meant to do is come in here and say, that's right, Tandi, then that's what we need. We need that body for that. Go ahead, because we need that soul.
And will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne.
Okay, to him that overcometh. Who overcometh? Not you. Yahshua in you. All right, now go back and finish that wedding feast and see how this goes down. Go ahead.
And all things are ready, come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise.
They went off and took care of the business, took care of the real estate, took care of the animals. Go ahead, because it was more important. It's not. Go ahead.
And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and shoot.
And this is what they did to the servant that went out. And to get these people to come into it, they murdered the servants. Go ahead. And that's what they did to the servant, Yahshua the Messiah. They hung him on a cross. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to go. We don't want to do what you want. Whatever, we're going to murder you. We're going to kill you. Not murder, kill. Read.
But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth. And he sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers.
So when the king heard that, he went out and killed the murderers. He went out and had them destroyed. Go ahead.
And burned up their city. Then saith he to his servants, the wedding is ready.
The wedding is ready. Second opportunity. Second opportunity.
But they which were bidden were not worthy.
And those that were bidden were not worthy.
Go ye therefore into the highways, and
go get those maimed and non-deserving and all that stuff. Go ahead.
And as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage.
And bring those in, because the other ones, well, he pretty much destroyed the others. Go ahead.
So those servants went out.
So there's only a little bit of a remnant left. So go out and get that remnant. Go ahead.
And gather together all as many as they found.
And bring them in. And so you know what? This is a remnant, because these seats aren't filled. And I don't know that they're ever filled except for when we have visitors or we have the barbecue. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Both bad and good. And the wedding was furnished.
Both bad and good. And the wedding was what?
Furnished with guests.
And then it was furnished with guests. Read.
And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said, you're going to have on the wedding garment. This soul has to be clothed. Clothed upon, not in its ratty-tatty state. The soul. So it's going to have to take on a change. The soul's going to have to take on a change. Okay? Go ahead. And he saith unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither not having a wedding garment? Why don't you have your wedding garment on? You must be prepared for this, this feast. You must be prepared. And the only way you're going to be is by attending class when it is here. Because you know what? This is the thing. These doors could close, physically close. Right. No more class. All you have is YouTube. And you might not have YouTube. Right.
So if you don't have that in you, if you do not have Yahshua in you, you don't have much hope.
Right.
Go ahead.
And he was speechless.
And he's speechless. I don't know what to say. You know, he's guilty. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Then said the king to the servants, bind him hand and foot.
And this is what will happen. Bind him hand and foot. Bind that one that came in and was not prepared and ready for my feast. Hand and foot, and what do you do with him?
And take him away and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Okay, now the outer darkness is those that do not receive this now while there's time. Well, Yahshua has time. By the way, he's operating in time. It says operating eternal purpose through the dispensations and ages, but right now we're in the dispensation of time. So he's operating this right now. And those that do not receive this are going to be cast into outer darkness. And that outer darkness is exactly what you're going to, in comparison to the lake of fire. The yearning and the desire that those that are cast into outer darkness, oh, I wish I would have gone to class. When Yahshua kept going over and over it for years and years that it was important for me to be in class, I wish I would have done that instead of this. Or put this in front of this and said, and also said things in my mind, I can justify myself. Because you think that you can always, as a matter of fact, you can justify yourself about just about anything you want to justify. And you are not justified. It says there will be what?
Weeping and gnashing.
And weeping and gnashing of teeth. So sad, so disheartening that a son would lose his soul over something that Yahshua easily said it was the easiest pie to do. He will make a way if you ask him, please put it on my heart to attend class when I need to be there. And he will make a way for you, and things will dissolve out of your life that seem more important or that you might have to do or whatever it may be that gets in the way. He'll take it away and make this is just a matter of fact. You wake up on, I wake up on Wednesday morning, today's class. Everything about that day revolves around the fact that I'm going to go to class on Wednesday night. I wake up on Friday. Everything that day revolves around. I don't care what gets in the way. Dr. Kinley went to class after his son died. He hears that his son has died, RP has died, and he gets on the floor and he preaches the gospel. And then he says, oh, by the way, RP died. His son, now you think he was any different than you were about his children than we are about our children? He was not. He loved his children. He loved his children. And his son died and he still got on the floor and preached the gospel, and you wouldn't have never known that RP had died. Because he knew, and you should know, what is most important in your life. And that is Yahshua the Messiah. He's the one who gives you life. And that's what Yahshua put on my heart and mind. I am amazed that he brought it out the way that he did. But I am pleased with all praise to him that he has shown me and given me this. And like Dr. Kinley said, well, let the chips fall where they may. But you take heed. Don't let it be that your soul is going to go to hell because you thought something else was more important than gathering together of the brethren, not the friends. We're not friends. If you develop friendship, fine. But guess what? I find that those friendships don't last forever anyway. They did. But what does abide forever is Yahshua in you and Yahshua in me, showing that he is your king, your sovereign, your ruler. What's the other one? Is there another one? Regent. He's everything that you need right now. And he will fulfill and take care of everything else. So give him what he justly deserves. That's the justifying. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. Our next speaker to be called upon today will be Dr. Graciela Underwood.
And I just had the thought in my mind, well, I don't think I'll be next. But at the same time, I did hope for an opportunity simply because of the fact that having been one of the individuals who had recently gone to the event in Albuquerque, and that's something that had been said by various vessels last week. I just a shout out to the brethren, because I do know there are brethren who watch, as she said, they don't only attend class, but they watch the other classes. I do that too, And no, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook to make friends. I have very few friends. But I am on Facebook to encourage others to keep Yahshua ever present in their mind, And I too have quote unquote kinsfolk that I wish were coming to class on a regular basis. And they have their excuses, and I recognize their excuses, because I also know that, like she said, if you ask Yahshua, he will make a way for you to come, And it may not be the way you'd want it to be, but you will be here. And once you're here and you're learning whatever way he brought you in, you'll say, thank you. Thank you for bringing me in. Because once you're in here, your soul gets strengthened by the gospel of Yahshua Messiah. And like she said, you will go through trials and tribulations. You'll have events that happen in your life, and other people will wonder, how are you getting through that? I mean, I didn't know you could take a leave of absence for certain things when I was working, when I was working full time, for something major that happened in my life. I just kept on going to work. I cry at work, but I kept on going to work and got through it. And like she said, I had kinfolk that they weren't in this country, they were in another country, and I had not seen them in a while, and they passed away. I still came to class. It wasn't that I wasn't mourning them or sad about them, but I came to class because I know who my true comforter is. It is Yahshua. I know who my healer is. It is Yahshua. If I have an ache or a pain, I know it's Yahshua. If I don't feel good when I come in here, I know when I leave, I feel a whole lot better on many occasions. If I come in here tired, and I have come in here tired, I have worked a second job and come in after a second job, even if it was only for 30 minutes, because I needed those 30 minutes. And I thank Yahshua that he's the one who brought me in. I also had times where I stayed home. And I had that condemnation for staying home, even though later I found out that perhaps someone was there that I would not have wanted to speak to, and it would have been hard for me to handle speaking to that individual because of the fact that we had been close friends and they were no longer under the gospel of Yahshua Messiah. They were under. So at that time I was also thankful. Thank you, Yahshua. I couldn't quite handle that. But now I'm stronger and I'm thankful. So having said that, I would like to go ahead and get Luke, 24th chapter, and let's go ahead and actually start at the first verse. As you know, if you may know, the Albuquerque spiritual feast was centered actually on Matthew, the 24th chapter, 14 and 15th verse, which is the kingdom of preaching the gospel of Yahshua Messiah. And as has been stated by other vessels, there were a number of first-time visitors that attended. And there were also first-time visitors that walked out before the lectures were finished. But there were also visitors that were first-time visitors that returned and returned and returned. So, paraphrasing, this gospel will either cause you to stay or drive you away. And we've had that statement made that you came dead on arrival. Your soul was dead. Now, people may not understand what that means, and I'm just going to say this briefly, that this chart on the pattern or plan of salvation starts off with this transgression plate. But actually, we usually say you have to start here with understanding the pattern to understand even this. But here with Adam and Eve, there was a death that occurred that actually ended up coming through and affecting all of mankind, and that we were all dead because of Adam. And that can be shown here also on this ages and dispensations chart, okay? The Garden of Eden here, and then the fact that it wasn't until here, the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahshua Messiah, that mankind had an opportunity to be alive again. So having said that, she says this is the age that we're in, right here. We're in the fourth age, the present kingdom age. So your soul has a chance to be alive. So when you came in dead on arrival, you came to the right place. You came someplace that can cause your soul to be alive again. Okay? So go ahead, please. Luke 24:1, please.
Luke 24:1. Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre.
Okay, so they came unto the sepulchre. That would mean that Yahshua the Messiah, he had already lived the 33 years of life. He had already been put on this cross, okay? And he said he said that they didn't take his life from him, okay? Keep that in mind. He'd already been put on this cross, and everything that he did was according to what was stated in Matthew 5:17, and that he came in to fulfill, okay? So now he's in the sepulchre, he's quote unquote, they're expecting him to be in the sepulchre. Go ahead.
They came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre.
So this stone, and mind you, there are guards here. Can you see them? Okay, and there's other places that you can look where we also have this image. Down here, guards. Okay, and we can look over here, guards, and other places. So why were there guards in front of a dead body, quote unquote? Okay, go ahead, please.
And they entered in and found not the body of Yahshua the Messiah. And it came to pass, as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, two men stood by them in shining garments.
Okay.
And as they were afraid and bowed down their faces to the earth, they said unto them, Why seek ye the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, and be crucified, and the third day rise again.
Okay. So right there, that's letting you know something. They're reminding them of what Yahshua had said to them, because Yahshua's the one who told them that he was going to have to die and resurrect the third day, that he was going to resurrect. Those who didn't believe that it was going to happen, okay, were they expecting anything? No. But those who believed that Yahshua would resurrect again, they were expecting something, okay? So continue, please.
And they remembered his words, and returned from the sepulchre, and told all these things unto the 11, and to all the rest. It was Mary Magdalene, and Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James, and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles. And their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not.
Okay, so we can relate to that. We tell people when they come in here that Yahshua Messiah is here with you now. And they think to ourselves, well, that, you're just talking. They didn't believe them. They didn't believe them. But why would they lie to them? Go ahead, please.
Then arose Peter and ran unto the sepulchre, and stooping down, he beheld the linen clothes laid by themselves.
Okay, now they could have thought, well, you're just mistaken. Something could have just happened. Something could have just happened to the body. I mean, so they go just find out for themselves. Go ahead.
And departed, wondering in himself at that which was come to pass.
Now, mind you, right here it shows you the linen was still there. Okay, and it was still there in the formation as if a body had been there. Okay, go ahead, please.
And behold, two of them went the same day to a village called Emmaus.
Now, two who believed in Yahshua Messiah were walking And that's what this is going to talk about. Go ahead.
To Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 70 furlongs.
Now, if you were to look at a footnote, you find out what that meant in terms of miles.
Seven
Go
and
ahead.
a half.
And they walked.
I think it was 7.5.
I think you're about right. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
And they talked together.
Now that's a long walk, mind you. Go ahead.
Oh, keep going. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. 14. And they talked together of all these things which had happened.
So what are they talking about? They're talking about the fact that the women had, they're talking about this. They're talking about what all had happened with regard to who they knew as Yahshua Messiah, that he'd been put on the cross, that he had died, that he had been buried, okay? So that's what they're really talking about at this point. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Yahshua himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden, that they should not know him.
So they didn't recognize, or they weren't allowed to recognize him at this point. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, What manner of communications are these, that ye have one to another as ye walk?
What are you talking about? Go ahead.
And are sad.
And they were sad. Go ahead.
And the one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering said unto him, Art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days?
Okay, so they weren't that far from Jerusalem where all of this had happened. Now we have this city called Lansing, and then we have the greater Lansing area.
Swamp.
So if something major happens at the capital, really major happens at the capital, then pretty much everyone in the area is going to know what happened there. And sometimes even throughout the state, because Lansing happens to be the capital of the state. Go ahead, please.
And he said unto them, What things? And they said unto him concerning Yahshua of Nazareth, which was a prophet mighty in deed and word before Yahweh and all the people, and how the chief priest and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death.
So who was it that they say delivered Yahshua, who they refer to as a prophet, to be condemned to death? The chief priests and the rulers. Go ahead.
And have crucified him.
And crucified him.
But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel.
So they were looking to this one to redeem Israel. How were they expecting him to redeem Israel? Okay. How were they expecting it? Because they had supposedly what was in the law, those first 5 books that we refer to as the Bible, and the prophets, those next 34 books. That was the only writings, the scriptures, during their time that they were exposed to, and that's what they were expecting. The one that was written up in those scriptures was going to be the Redeemer of Israel. Redeem them from what? The children of Israel were under what we refer to as that carnal law, okay, carnal ordinances. The Mosaic law that was spoken down from Mount Sinai, okay? And that they, throughout the years, they were writing them on their being and on their walls so they wouldn't forget what was in that law, because guess what? We thought there was only 10. Those of us who were in Christianity at one time, we thought that there was only 10 that we had to keep track of. There were 613 ordinances. 613 ordinances. We sometimes have to force ourselves to read the fine print on a contract that we're putting our name to. I can't imagine, 613. Oh, whoa. Okay, go ahead, please.
But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel. And beside all this, today is the 3rd day since...
So today's the 3rd day. This has significance to them. Go ahead.
Today is the 3rd day since these things were done. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came, saying, And they had also seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive. And certain of them...
Okay, so that's also what they were talking about. They were talking about the fact that the women had seen angels, and that there had been no body in the tomb. Go ahead, please.
And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre, and found it even so as the women had said. But him they saw not.
And that not only that, somebody else verified there was nobody in the tomb. Go ahead.
Then he said unto them, O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Messiah to have suffered these things, and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself.
Okay, so now this stranger that they thought they were telling him something that he didn't know is now telling them what they need to know. You've been a fool because you haven't paid attention to what was really written in the law and the prophets and believed it, and that you don't recognize that what was said there is true. And he's going to now go through what's written in the law and the prophets concerning himself to show them that the Redeemer liveth. Go ahead, please.
28. And they drew nigh unto the village whither they went, and he made as though he would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass.
I'm going to stop you. Because what she just said, he acted as if he was going to keep on walking. And they were going to be stopping, okay? So what did they do? Abide with us. Now, isn't that what she was referring to in Revelation, 3 and 20, if I remember? That he stands at the door and knocks. So he's been talking to them. That's the knocking. And then they asked him, okay, to stay with him. So when you want to really know something about Yahshua Messiah, you just have to ask, like she said. Whatever it be you really want to know, you have to ask. And he answers you. How does he answer you? It isn't always going to be some voice in your head, or he may actually take a vessel up on the floor and answer you by having them go through what needs to be gone through so you really truly understand what it is that you need to know. Go ahead, please.
29. And they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat at meat with them, he took bread, and blessed it, and brake it, and gave to them. And their eyes were opened, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight.
So we do the Romans 1:19 and 20. Let's go ahead and get Romans 1:19 and 20, and hold your place where you're at.
Romans 1:19. Because that which may be known of Yahweh is manifest in them, because Yahweh has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and supernal nature, so that they are without excuse.
So the fact that he took bread, and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them, he'd already been doing that with regard to the preaching of the gospel to them, okay? Now, when they see the physical breaking of the bread, okay, now they recognize him because he's the one who fed the multitude, okay? He's the one who, quote unquote, at what's referred to as the Last Supper, the Passover, he broke that bread. But the bread that was really broken, as we've learned here, is his body, okay? And it was his blood that was shed. And that's what's important, is recognizing the truth about the matter. Whereas I know for a fact, I attended services where they would offer up the wafer, the Eucharist, which they were, that's the bread that they thought was important. They call it the host. They thought it was so important because they thought of it as his body that they put it into a special container. They put it into a special location. They called it the tabernacle. I didn't know what a tabernacle was until I came here, because I thought that's what the tabernacle was, and didn't recognize that it was the same word, because they had a different meaning in my mind. I didn't recognize that what they were giving me was supposed to be spiritual understanding as opposed to this physical wafer. that got stuck on the top of my mouth, and I wondered if it was okay to use my tongue to get it to come down, because I needed to swallow it, because it was supposed to be in me. All misconceptions that are still going on for those who have not been enlightened. Read it again, please.
Mm-hmm. And he vanished out of their sight.
Mm-hmm.
Or Romans, or did you want?
No, just the last sentence.
Okay. Of Romans or this one? Sorry.
Of Luke.
Okay, there we go. Okay. And he vanished out of their sight.
Mm-hmm.
And they said one to another, did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us by the way, and while he opened to us the scriptures?
Okay. So my sheep know my voice. My sheep hear me talking to them. My sheep is going to have that response. Didn't our hearts burn within us as he spoke to us out of the law and the prophet? Weren't our eyes opened? Didn't we get some understanding? When you start to have those things happen with you, you are of his sheep. Listen up. Be obedient. Go ahead, please.
And they rose up the same hour and returned to Jerusalem, and found the 11 gathered together.
So what did they do now? They're going to go tell about what they heard, what they saw. They're going to give it to others. Go ahead, please.
And them that were with them, saying, the master is risen indeed.
And that's the message that they give. Yahshua is resurrected. The master is risen indeed. Go ahead, please.
And hath appeared to Simon. And they told what things were done in the way, and how he was known of them in breaking of bread.
Right.
And as they thus spake, Yahshua himself stood in the midst of them, and said unto them, Peace be unto you. But they were terrified and affrighted, and supposed that they had seen a spirit. And he said unto them, Why are ye troubled? And why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a spirit hath not flesh and bones, and ye see me have.
Now, the thought that the reason I reacted the way I did when she was reading is because I know my reaction with regard to my second class was like, oh my, and like she says, you have that emotional reaction. And my reaction was like, oh my goodness, there's something to this, you know. So to think that this is real, oh my gosh, that shakes you. That's an earthquake. That is an earthquake for you. And when an earthquake happens, you have to seek shelter. The only shelter you really have is in the body of Yahshua Messiah. So you go ahead and you hold. And somebody said that. It's not a matter of hanging. You're not hanging on. You are holding. You are standing. Okay? You have Yahshua to call on. He is your strength, your tower of strength. He is the one who causes your very breath to continue. We have a member here that she came after something serious happened, and you know, she was thankful to come that day. She just had an experience that involved her heart. And when she told me that, I thought, oh my goodness, you're here. We may not all know each other's lives detailed, even though we've been here for years. I still don't know what your favorite color is. Do I care? Only if I wanted to give you something that you might like, I suppose, you know. But for that matter, I know it's not going to be damnation to me if I don't get it right, you know. But we have been admonished that we also, because Yahshua, his spirit is in us, that we are to be courteous to one another. It is his body. Teamwork. That was one thing that I thought was really, I'm going to call it cute for lack of another word. Beverly and Freddie, you know, he basically said that, you know, for them, it's teamwork. And that's the way it's supposed to be between Yahshua and his bride. teamwork, okay? We're all ambassadors. If we know something about Yahshua Messiah, we are ambassadors. And it's true. Others are looking on us and wondering about us. If we do something that is not, it doesn't glorify Yahshua, okay, that doesn't bring glory to his name, we will be chastised for that. And we should remind one another, in all circumstances to remember that part, okay? Because when he puts a chastisement on you, it can be severe. And it's much easier to be obedient. We sing that song that has the word mercy in it, and I just love that word, mercy. Because when you recognize that he has been merciful to you, merciful, and that he has protected you from the moment that you took your first breath, there was protection for you. Why do I say that? Because now you have a chance to actually learn something about him, and your soul can now breathe. I'm doing the Romans 1:19 and 20. Everything that you go through in your life is so that now your soul can live. What you go through is so that your soul can live. And that's what's really important. We talk about there's going to be the state where individuals who have been disobedient to the gospel of Yahshua Messiah. Let's get the 1 Thessalonians 1:6, I guess it is. That they have a destination. And when we talk about destination, we talk about the fact that it's not a place like going to Mars. People want to go to another planet thinking that they can save themselves from what's happening on this earth plane. No, the only saving from this earth plane is to go into the body of Yahshua Messiah. Because your soul is what's going to go on. Your flesh will not go on. Okay, I asked for
1 Thessalonians? 2 Thessalonians
thank
1
you, 2 Thessalonians 1 and 6.
I'm going to start. What do you want, 1 or 6?
No, let's start at 6.
Okay, 6. Seeing it is a righteous thing with Yahweh to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you, and to you who are troubled, rest with us.
Okay, see, he's getting two categories, like the sheep and the goats. Okay? The goats are the ones who butt. The sheep are the ones who are going to be obedient to the voice of the sheep herder or the shepherd. Okay? Go ahead, please.
And to you who are troubled, rest with us, when Yahshua the Messiah shall be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels, in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not Yahweh.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt her. You heard that parable about the king and his army. And what did that army do at the king's command? Took vengeance on those, okay, who weren't listening to the king.
Right.
Go ahead, please.
In flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not Yahweh, and that obey not the gospel of our Savior, Yahshua the Messiah, who shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of Yahweh and from the glory of his power.
See? You can look back at things like people who have been banished from their community, okay, for whatever reason, Leprosy is one thing that comes to mind. They're in a state that we would refer to as their personal hell, even though they may have a community there. They're not able to see their loved ones. Okay, they're not able to interact with their friends anymore, or whoever. They're no longer in a situation that they really want to be in. Now, that's a physical aspect. We're talking about spirit. And when you talk about spirit and you talk about eternity, that's a little harder for people to understand. But when you're in that state of hell, and I'm calling it hell, okay, that lake of fire, where you're no longer going to be able to say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, or tomorrow will be a good day. No. Never, ever, ever is it going to be a good day for you. And there won't be any time. There won't be any end for that state of not feeling like this is awful. And when I say awful, I'm putting it mildly, because that's not really what's going to happen. We talk about people who go into a depression, and they're so depressed with their life that they end their life. You couldn't even do that there. You can't even take that as an out. That's, I'm sorry. No soul needs to be there. Listen to the gospel of Yahshua Messiah. Learn about who your Redeemer is. Learn that he's your Savior. Recognize that it's Yahweh. I'm going to come over here for a moment. We point here, Yahweh, the Father, Elohim, the Word or Son, Yahshua, the Holy Spirit. Recognize that Yahweh, he had a pure spirit state, his highest state, an abstract state. That's what that means. He took on this intermediate state where he is Elohim, the superincorporeal form. In this state, he appeared in visions to the prophets. What's written in the law and the testimony, those are things that he instructed them to tell the people, his chosen people at that time, which was the children of Israel. But he also came in a state as Elohim to the founder of this school. Gave him a panoramic vision, an all-encompassing vision, the same that was seen by Moses and by John, so that we would know about him in this state, where he was Yahshua. He came in a physical form. He died, buried, resurrected on the third day, as we read about. And his spirit has a name, Holy Spirit, Yahshua, proclaiming that Yahweh is salvation. Philippians 2:9.
Philippians 2:9.
Mm-hmm.
Did he say something?
Yes.
Wherefore Yahweh also hath highly exalted him, and given him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Yahshua every knee should bow, of things in heaven, and things in earth, and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yahshua the Messiah is Savior, to the glory of Yahweh the Father.
So we have up here, okay, the kingdom of Elohim, new heaven, new earth. And he is surrounded by those that are glorifying him. That name, Yahshua, glorifying him, the King of Kings. If they're not doing this, this is where they're at. And we talk about the judgment is already happening. There's already a division being made between the sheep and the goats. And we ask that you ask Yahshua to give you that gift of discernment. It is such a precious gift to have that gift of discernment. Ask him for it. You think because it's a gift you can't ask for it? You can ask for it. It's his gift and his willingness to give it to you. To give it to you. And like she said, ask for a way to be able to be faithful and to come regularly. He'll do that too. Ask him to help you with regard to sitting your butt down in a chair and doing some reading, or if you want to do it in bed, like I'd like to do. Ask him. And then what? After that, be thankful, because he will answer. So recognize that he's answering those prayers and be thankful. Be ever thankful. We encourage you that if you cannot physically be here on a particular class night, do your very best to be with Yahshua in your heart and your mind, wherever you are, and to do what he asks you to do. And be sure that it's him that's asking you to do that. And that's where the discernment comes in. Okay? Be sure that it's him and not yourself that's asking you to do that. Don't lie to yourself. Because, oh gosh, we are so good at lying to ourselves. And remember that when the Holy Spirit is with you and he's in you, okay, you will hear his voice. He will comfort you. He will guide you. And people say, well, how does that happen? Well, the thoughts that you get now, you have to discern whether that thought is from Yahshua or from the demons, don't you? So that's how he's doing it. He's talking to you. You know, and we also say that you have to look at this. Does it go according to the law? Does it go according to the testimony? Does it go according to this tabernacle pattern? And who is it pointing to? Is it pointing to a man? No. Is it pointing to Yahshua? Then yes. So there are things to look at to tell whether or not it's him talking to you. Okay? He's given us, as we say, the tools by which to recognize him. You know, people, when we were, I'm going to give this analogy. Those of you who have traveled recently by airplane know that they have security checkpoints. You've ordered your ticket, and if you're smart enough or whatever, you've already got your passes ahead of time. Those of us who are old-fashioned go up to the counter and say, okay. I need my boarding pass. Well, what do they want from me? Identification. Why do they want it? Because they want to prove to themselves and be responsible for that proof that who they're giving that boarding pass is actually the individual who paid for that boarding pass. Now, the parable talked about the individuals with regard to not wearing the proper clothes. And we talk about Passover. And I'm going to go over here to the ages and dispensations chart. Yes, spiritual kingdom on earth. But that's not going to last. You want to be over here. So you're going to have to pass over. And the only way you're going to pass over at that instantaneous universal revelation of Yahshua Messiah is if you're with Yahshua. And we often say this, fire doesn't burn fire. It just joins with it. So you have to be on fire. You have to have that burning desire to be with Yahshua. You know, if you're going to be his bride, be a happy bride. Be a thankful bride. And it may be hard to take, but be an obedient bride. You know? You should be so thankful that he is your almighty provider, as she said, your comforter, he's your healer, and yes, he is your friend. But most of all, he is your king. Yes. And as your king, he requires, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, he requires obedience. Yes. And we've given you, examples with regard to what happened to Vashti, and that, she didn't even come when the king called her because she was busy with her own party. So she didn't come. And she was no longer queen. I mean, that's how severe it can be. Okay, so with those words, hallelujah, praise Yahshua, remember this, that he is writing on your heart and on your mind. So be thankful.
Thank you, Dr. Underwood. That brings a close to our class for today. Any comments or questions? Indeed. Announcements are as follows. Classes are held every Wednesday and Friday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Sundays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. All workshops are held the first 4 Sundays of each month, and they begin at 9 a.m. And our after-class question and answer period is the third Friday of each month. The school is supported by its members, and pledges are due at the beginning of each month. Donations are welcomed and greatly appreciated. For either one, please see our treasurer. And from the Office of Public Relations, you can view our class on YouTube. You can also contact us at Facebook, WordPress, and Twitter. All donations for our streaming project are greatly appreciated. Class announcements are as follows. This is a spiritual operation. Let's all rise for the doxology so that we may be dismissed. I will be quoting the last two verses of the book of Jude from the Holy Name Bible. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling, and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy, to the only wise Elohim our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah our Sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both before all time and now and ever. Let us all say, Hallelujah.
Won't you search for him while he is near, while he can be found? If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. He's not some heavy idol you need to lift and bear, more of a burden than a freedom. Some little God to worship when you've got the time to spare, and teardrops are your only reason for even wondering if he exists, just who he is. Won't take that step to learn his name. You're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really found while there's still time to care. He does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor dwell among the sun and moon and stars. He has a divine purpose you need to understand. Come learn of it and learn just who you are. Oh, won't you come and learn if he exists, just who he is. Just make that step to learn his name. Oh, you're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to search for him. Search for him. He's everywhere, everywhere. Yahweh can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. Won't you search for him while he is near, while he can be found? If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. He's not some heavy idol you need to lift and bear, more of a burden than a freedom. Some little God to worship when you've got the time to spare, and teardrops are your only reason for even wondering if he exists, just who he is. Won't take that step to learn his name. You're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. He does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor dwell among the sun and moon and stars. He has a divine purpose you need to understand. Come learn of it and learn just who you are. Oh, won't you come and learn if he exists, just who is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to search for him. Search for him. He's everywhere, everywhere. Yahweh can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. Won't you search for him while he is near, while he can be found? If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. He's not some heavy idol you need to lift and bear, more of a burden than a freedom. Some little God to worship when you've got the time to spare, and teardrops are your only reason for even wondering if he exists, just who he is. Won't take that step to learn his name. You're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. He does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor dwell among the sun and moon and stars. He has a divine purpose you need to understand. Come learn of it and learn just who you are. Oh, won't you come and learn if he exists, just who he is. Just make that step to learn his name. Oh, you're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. to search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. Oh, he's not some heavy idol you need to lift and bear, more of a burden than a freedom. Some little God to worship when you've got the time to spare, and teardrops are your only reason for even wondering if he exists, just who he is. Won't take that step to learn his name. You're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care. Oh, he does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor dwell among the sun and moon and stars. He has a divine purpose you need to understand. Come learn of it and learn just who you are. Oh, won't you come and learn if he exists, just who he is. Just make that step to learn his name. Oh, you're gonna be to blame if you don't search for him while he is near, while he can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to search for him. Search for him. He's everywhere, everywhere. Yahweh can be found. If you really feared, you would search for him. He's everywhere. Yahweh can be found while there's still time to care.